All right, Jeff, tell me about experience, why that matters, and how that plays into leverage, the fees, structuring the loan for the borrower.
We have two main products with the fix and flip and the ground up construction. And ground up construction, there's a lot of moving parts. There's pulling the permits, there's doing all that. So we make it a lot easier if you have experience. And we're lucky that we're local here in Dallas, and we can partner with some builders that we know. But we will lend to somebody that has no experience. But if you have experience, it opens it up a little bit more. Credit scores are not as strict. You get better leverage. And when I say leverage, I mean less cash to close, better after repair value percentages. And so by doing or having experience, especially on the ground up side, it really opens it up. And then on the fix and flip side, it kind of opens up the more you get. If you've done three, or I'm sorry, if you've finished three, and when I say finish, I mean completion, either refinance or sell. If you've done three, it opens it up, and in certain circumstances, we can do, as little as 10, maybe even 7.5% as loan to cost down. That's kind of where we're at, and the more experience, the better it is for us. And that's our goal here is to work with clients that are going to come back to us, because we love our returning clients. It makes it easier, makes it quicker, and we can do stuff at a higher speed with returning clients.
So what do you count as experience, and what do you not count as experience? And for example, we've had loan applications where, somebody wants to get a loan from us and they put 20 years of experience, right? And then we dig into it and we ask them, oh, I've been a real estate agent for 20 years and they want to get $1 million loan from us for a new construction property. Well, I mean, being a real estate agent is great, but it doesn't teach you how to build a house.
Yeah, so that's a great point, especially with a real estate agent. So they know the buying and selling side of it, so that helps. But what we really look at is like for like experience and in the last 36 months. So what we really want is somebody that's been on the HUD, either as personal name or in their LL or in their company name. I normally refer back to LLC just because most of our clients have the LLC, but we're looking like for like. And in that situation, especially with the ground up, they know the buy and sell side of it, but they don't have the pulling the permits, the dealing with the contractors. And I've had so many conversations with people when they do their first flip or they do their first ground up, things get out of order and you don't know what you don't know. And so they'll finish things and then they realize they got to go back and fix it. And so what we're really looking at is somebody with experience that kind of knows it. And we have builders, if you're in the Dallas Metroplex, we have builders that will, can help guide you on that also. So I feel like I kind of danced around there. Did I answer your question?
I think that answered it great, but I do have another follow-up question. So like borrowers, even borrowers with some experience or even no experience, where do you think they get, like if they get into a project, where do you think they get caught up and they start having problems, especially those with maybe just one flip or maybe it's their first flip?
We have so many borrowers that start with flips and then they realize they're opening up somebody else's problem. And I don't know if it's delayed maintenance or you open up something and there's more water damage than there's 100 examples that you can use, but water damage, termites are the main ones. And that, so, you can't predict everything, but that's a lot of the sides of it. And then, sometimes weather delays more than you would think, but those are the main ones that I see is coming up as issues. Now, I'll turn that question back to you because you see a lot more of it on it. What do you see as hiccups in the timeline or things that cause problems with on the building side?
I think the biggest thing is inexperience usually turns into budgets not being very accurate. Budgets being much lower than they should be. They don't have the experience hiring those subs, how much plumbing is going to cost, how much electrical is going to cost, how much all these things are going to cost. And so that's really the biggest problem. And when you look back at any project that has failed, for the most part, it's usually you can tie it to the budget. Well, because the borrower just didn't have enough money to get the project done.
That's great. Now that you say that, yeah, that's a huge part. And also, if they're slow in the building process, prices aren't going to go down on lumber. They're not going to go down on trades. So the longer the project takes, it increases. And, as much as I say you've done a great job on our example of our scope of work. It specifically says, like windows, how many, and you can fill out the budget and it doesn't tell us what end level result you're going to do. I mean, there's some that, our clients, they're not in the Metroplex and they're looking just to kind of get it rent ready. And then there's some of the houses that we've done are, multi-million-dollar houses, and they need and I wish I could Viking or whatever on, the high end finishes makes a huge difference, and just making sure it fits the build.
Yeah, most budgets don't tell us if they're using quality tile or quality laminate flooring or even the appliances. It'll just say appliances, $1,500. Well, what does that really mean? And sometimes it's kind of frustrating for the borrower. We have to go back to them and say, hey, can you give us a little bit more detail instead of just flooring, $10,000? I don't know what that means. You know what you're building, but translate that on paper so we can look at that and so we can see your vision.
That's a great example, because especially with flooring, a lot of places have carpet in one room and tile in another and laminate in another. And so it's, kind of breaking it down to go through it. And I feel like there was a house in the last year where you said, hey, they don't have any tile in the budget. And they ended up, it was a plastic surround tub and they didn't need tile, but it's some of those details that quality and then level and number kind of explains a lot. So it's almost goes into the planning, like you're saying, where we need to know what you're going to build and how much quality on it.
Yeah, it just makes the underwriting so much easier when we can visualize what they're actually building. All right, so for our loans, who are we giving these loans to, and what sort of purpose are they?
So we're giving them to businesses, investment properties only. So when I say investment properties, that means you have a residence that you're living in, and then you'll fix up this house. Now, it has happened where, unfortunately, somebody has built a great house and it doesn't sell, and they go, man, I really like this house. I'm going to move into it. Our loan specifically, you sign something at the end, at the closing day, that says it is not your personal residence. You refinance out of it. You can go into a traditional loan, but our loans are only for investment purposes.
All right. What are the credit expectations?
The easy one is no major credit delinquencies in the last 36 months. And when I say major credit events, I think is the term. So that means no foreclosure, bankruptcies are generally the easy ones. But as far as credit, the actual credit score, we understand, especially with fix and flip and ground up, your utilization on your credit goes up and down based off your projects. You pay off a project, and the utilization is going to go below those thresholds. But as far as score, the more experience you have, the more lenient we're going to be on the credit. Sorry, I'm a little bit of a credit dork. Being 15 years in mortgages, I feel like that's one of the areas I excel in. So I could go down a whole rabbit hole in this. But the quick answer is the more experience you have, the more lenient we're going to be.
All right. What about liquidity? How much money does a borrower need?
There is a calculation on that. So first things first, we are a reimbursement draw setup. So you need enough cash to fund the build itself. And it doesn't matter if it's a ground up construction or a fix and flip. We're going to look at 10% of the build budget and 6 months of payments. Now, 10% of a build budget, if you're flipping a smaller house, isn't a ton. But if you're building a $900,000 house and the build budget's $500,000 or $600,000, that we're looking for that $50,000 or $60,000 on it. So that's the back end of it, and then I'll go forward with the front end. We also need to have enough money that you're going to be able to make the down payment, closing cost, and escrow. We get a lot of questions what escrow cost. We partner with people and we know the basics, but we don't normally set those pricing, so we don't speak to that. But I can answer the down payment and the per diems and the interest and that side of things pretty easily. And the overall answer to that is, ground up construction money down is a little bit different than fix and flip on it.
Yeah, and going back to the closing cost things, we have a lot of borrowers who ask, well, what are my closing costs on this loan? Well, so everyone knows closing costs include lender fees, title fees, insurance, any liens on the property, basically any third-party fees that get put on the settlement statement or the HUD. And as the lender, we're not always privy to all that information. We can tell the borrower what the lender fees are going to be because we set those as a lender. But a lot of the other fees we have to get with title. So, a lot of borrowers like to come to us and ask us that, but we don't know the answer.
Great point is that the title is going to have most of that. They're going to, like you said, that if there's any taxes that need to be paid, we're not going to be part of that. Obviously, we have to have insurance on our projects, but yes, I can tell you exactly what our cash to close is going to be pretty quickly. And now, per diem interest on a larger loan, if you close at the end of the month versus the beginning of the month, could be a huge swing in dollar amounts.
All right, what are some typical red flags that you see?
So we can go down two different avenues on that. Number one, red flags on a build or a fix and flip. What's the exit strategy? What's the purpose of it? Are you going to rent it or are you going to sell it? Because that's going to kind of determine what quality of work you're going to do on it. So that's the easy part. We are a business purpose loan. We like doing as many loans as we can. For us, if you could fix and flip a house in 6 months and move to the next one, we're going to love it. But if you don't have a clear exit, that's kind of a red flag for us. And then as far as red flags on a loan coming in, anytime it's a refinance on a fix and flip, that means either timing, something was wrong, or there was an issue there, and it's a red flag because the current lender won't close on it. So that's a big red flag. It's also hard for us to refinance out of another hard money loan because when you bought the property, the house most of the time was in a good condition, and if you're mid-construction, if you're down to the studs, the value that you had 6, 8, 9 months ago isn't going to be the same as what the value is now. And then a third way for red flags is if somebody comes to us and says, hey, I've got this great deal. I look at the numbers, they go great. We send them, they want to move forward, and they say, hey, can you use this appraisal? Appraisals are ordered by another by a lending institution. So there's a reason that lending institution didn't go with it. And I get it. Sometimes stuff happens and it's no fault to anybody else, but I want to know why it's happening. I don't want to spend our resources if it's a hard stop. And then those are the main ones I can think of offhand. There's probably a handful of other ones, but no experience, low credit scores are the ones that kind of come up and that are the major ones.
Yeah, I think getting a package directly from a borrower or a broker that already has an appraisal. I mean, how many times have we got appraisal from a year ago and the guy's trying to refinance a fix and flip loan from another lender? I mean, it's just red flag after red flag. It's basically, if that lender didn't want to extend your loan and are we going to be the idiots to take on this deal, basically?
Yeah, it makes it really hard, and just the value's not there. And there's more than just that issue of extending it. There's got to be either delays, over budget, and it makes it really hard. But yeah.
So kind of thinking about that too, it's like, a good takeaway, when we look at deals, we're not looking for excuses to fund deals. We're looking for excuses to not fund them. We're trying to find the problems in every deal.
A lot of those loans that we reference, yes, there's red flags. And sometimes we can get around a small red flag if it's one, but if it's 2 or 3, like you're saying, where they're wanting to refinance, it's to the studs, the current lender won't do it. You kind of just go, it doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And yet we are in the business of lending money and making money, but if it doesn't make sense, we would pass. And
we're also in the business of preserving capital too. We don't want to lose that
exactly.
money. So when you're communicating with the borrower, what do you expect? And then how does that communication kind of translate to how we look at the deal and the underwriting of the deal?
Like we mentioned previously, it's one of those things that if you get a full package from somebody really quickly, you kind of raises the ears and go, are there red flags? Why do you have so much information? Have you been sitting on this a while? But communication is great. Now, I love our borrowers. I like talking to them. I don't have time to talk to you 7 times a day. So I like communication, but we have a set of processors that will tell you exactly what is needed to get the loan in, and kind of clear communication from the front end. What are you looking to do? What are the goals? And I think I have 2 or 3 loans that people are like, hey, can I close this week? If there's a national holiday, if there's something else, like, we need to know that. But they want to close in a quick time frame, and then you ask for basic information and they can't provide it in a timely manner. So, I think I mentioned it earlier. Somebody says, how quickly can you close? And then it takes the client, 2-3 weeks to get basic information, but they wanted to close in a week. I just trust people for what they're saying. If it's really what you want, and our staff will send out multiple reminders on it. And so communication's two-way. We're open to it. We want to get the loan in. We want to do it, but that's the main thing. And it goes to the exit strategy and going from there. And then, you may see it more on the draw request side, because you're, looking at those, but most of our loans are 12 months on the short-term side. If by 6 months they're not around 50%, sometimes I feel like they should mention to us that, hey, we're having issues, or, and I get it. There's a lot of times that on our ground up construction, maybe they're tearing down an old house and there's certain time frames. I think the gas in Dallas has to be turned off for X number of days or weeks. And so there's things that take longer. And I think I saw that the city of Dallas is going to furlough employees for a little bit.
Yeah,
So that,
saw it this
stuff
morning.
like that. So we get those sort of things. But if it's something like, that you can't control, permits or weather, those are I feel like the number one thing is. But if there's something like, not that I need to know everything that's going on with you, but if you broke your leg and you can't be there to facilitate it, hey, it might be nice to know that, at 6 months you're at, 35%, but you'll be back in it. So communication is great, both, pre-game and during, I guess is an easy way to say it. So
Yeah, I think for me, when I'm underwriting a deal, if obviously we don't want borrowers blowing you up 10 times a day. Hey, is this going to close? Is this going to close? But there's a fine line with communication. If they are efficient with getting their documents to us, quickly and getting us exactly what we need, and, hey, is there anything else that you need? Instead of, hey, when are you going to close? Well, there's still 5 documents you haven't even given us, and so that ties into the professionalism of the borrower too. So how they handle, getting their documents to us and getting the loan closed kind of tells us how they're going to handle the project when we're servicing it. If I have to come to them in the middle of a project and ask them a question, if they were good with communication on the front end and professional, I'm expecting that same kind of communication mid-project too, and timely communication.
And I think that's a great point there, is if they're good on communication the front end, during, like we said, that sometimes stuff gets delayed, permits, weather, whatever it is. Yes, we can do extensions in rare circumstances, but you're going to be a lot more likely to give somebody an extension if they've communicated, if they haven't gone dark, if they've done, updates here and there, and kind of go through it.
100%. You tell me what's going on. Like, my goal is not to foreclose on a property or put a loan into default. Like, we want every project to be successful, but if you don't communicate, our hands are tied. Tell us what's going on. Tell us what you need to be successful and get this project to the finish line, and we'll do everything we can to help you. But if you don't communicate, we're in the dark, and there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
These are business purpose loans. Our borrowers are not buying these homes to move their family in. Hopefully not, because they're not allowed to. We see a lot of borrowers get kind of emotionally tied to properties and get too committed. What do you see there?
It goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's an asset-based loan. The numbers got to make sense. The loan to cost, the after repair value. So while, yes, we want you to buy grandma's old house and fix it up, if the numbers aren't there, it's going to be hard for us to do the loan. Now, if that's a great house, it'll make sense financially for us. And so that's the main thing. But I've had it, every couple of months, somebody's just dead set on this house, and there's just a ton of options out there. So the main thing is to make sure that, that the loan makes sense, you're not overly attached to that specific house, and then that it has the profitability and the exit strategy.
All right, let's run through the typical kind of borrower profiles. We've got, strong borrower, an average borrower, and kind of a high risk borrower. So what's the difference between them all? How do we kind of put each borrower in a bucket? What are we looking at here?
The easy way to split it up is kind of 3 tiers, and number 1 is going to be, especially with fix and flip, just because it's easier. Tier 1 is going to be brand new. They might be a contractor or subcontractor or real estate agent where they have some general knowledge of either the purchase, acquisition, or rehab. That's going to be one level. And then the next level is, hey, they've done a couple flips, they've finished 2, and then the tier 3 is somebody that's, done 4 or more in the last 3 years. And so those are the three tiers. Tier 1 is going to be the one, I hate to say training wheels, but we're going to be a little bit tighter on what we're doing. The ARV may not be as high. The interest rate might be a little bit higher, or we might look for more down payment. And then, a lot of our fix and flip loans right now, for an example, if you have no experience, we're going to look at a 15% down or loan to cost. And real quick, we analyze cost as acquisition plus rehab. And this is example I always give is $100,000 acquisition, $100,000 in rehab. You're looking at a $200,000 cost. We want 15% down, $30,000. And then you get up to somebody that's done 1 to 2. That instead of 15% down off the loan to cost, we might drop it to 10%. And that extra 5% goes a long way. And then we also open up the ARV a little bit. And then you're going to get the best once you've finished 3 or 4 in the last three years. We're going to open it up. You're going to get the best leverage or best ARV. You're going to get the better rates, and then your down payment's going to be less. We can even go 7.5% down off a loan to cost, and sometimes even better. But that's the main thing is the more experience we go, and as you get more experience, the credit score we're a little bit more lenient on. Like I mentioned earlier, credit scores kind of do the roller coaster in fix and flip and ground up construction, and we're going to give you a little bit more leniency the more experience you have.